Testing. Greetings in the spirit of peace and love and transformation. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Ooh, you look good. It has definitely been a journey. So many familiar, warm faces. Thank you for being present, and thank you for being kin, and thank you for showing up for, as she suggested, people who can live out loud and be sovereign and whole with things like plant medicine. There is no plant that gets more weight than the other, right? They are all magical, they are all medicinal. And when we are in alignment with Source, we will be able to use them accordingly to how they are needed. Some might need a little more than others, or some might not need none at all. It is the relationship that you have. So, I'm going to offer a blessing. And so, in the traditional practice of hoodoo that I come to you as, I want to share a blessing way, or share a collaboration of words and such that bring you power and prosperity, me power and prosperity, your ancestors, this amazing building, and those who've contributed for us being here. But in order to receive a lot of these blessings, and we've been in mosques and church and ceremony, you have to be open to receive it. So uncross and undo anything that is holding you back from expansion and goodness and wholeness and kinship and synchronicity and love and unification. We all come this far really to be connected with one another. We did all of this just to meet each other. So let's take full advantage of that. I want to take the opportunity to say thank you. Thank you for this amazing gathering. Thank you for the beautiful space and those that manage and run it. And of course, thank you for all the leaders and supporters and donators of Women's Visionary Congress. Thank you for the food, the land that grew it, the hands that harvested it, the animals that have sacrificed themselves alongside with their plant brothers and sisters to offer us wholeness and nourishment. Thank you for the businesses that processed it so that we too would have more of that goodness. And thank you for being here. Thank you for showing up as you are, whole, complete, and perfect, receiving all that is good and expansional blessings that will help you and your family and your loved ones and those that you meet, like mushrooms spurring. Align, be connected, and be one with Source. These many blessings we ask in all of your amazing names and energies. Ashe, namaste, so it is, blessed be. Well, welcome again. I'm going to go ahead and to the presentation. So I am Sophia Buggs, and this is the title of the presentation. I know that she introed with talking around equity and inclusion, because initially that was the first conversation that I thought may have been available, because many of us are working at these institutions. They're not running themselves, right? Many of us are one or two or a couple of working in big spaces that check off boxes, the boxes we're trying to escape. So I do that in relationship to big institutions or neighborhood organizations or partnerships that are trying to collab with grassroots or just individuals trying to do good in their own areas. Because what tends to happen is if we're not talking about numbers, then it's unproductive, right? But what if we just move the numbers out of the way and aligned it with storytelling? So then everybody's included. Mama and them, auntie and them, the soil, the old building that still is not torn down in spite of fires, in spite of blight and tragedy. Everything has vibration, therefore it is included. And it is up to us to bring everybody with you. So when you're sitting at the table with such partners, I think it's important to bring everybody, including your mama, them, to the table, because you would not have vibration and you would not have voice without them. Even if they are addicted to drugs and not where they need to be, and stop taking their medicine and are stubborn or maybe even isolated. They are still a part of you, right? And we are still pouring. And sometimes those drunks and others and misfits are the very shoulders that you're standing on. So you better not forget who you are. That's what the purpose of this is. Shared traditions and spiritual practices makes way for wholeness. And I know we use wholeness a lot. I like to use it in a holistic perspective, from a space of we all deserve our own sovereignty, where I can respect your way and you can respect mine. But in the respect, there's a thing that happens, right? Like cells, we get together and then we're one. And one and one and one, and we get bigger and bigger, and sometimes we don't. Sometimes we stay coupled as two, sometimes it's a bunch of us, but nonetheless, you're not alone, okay? So sharing traditions is important. This is an overview of all the things that I'm doing. Sometimes I jump into the talk and I don't give a full background of who I am and the work that I'm doing and how I've probably made the connection to a lot of the folk that are in the room. Owner and operator of a urban farm on the south side of Youngstown, Ohio. And Planet U, it's a new way that I'm able to outreach to the community legally. That's what that is, because if I could, I'd just be myself. But showing up better means I need a better business, right? So that I can get paid accordingly and everybody else can get paid. And I get my intellectual property I shade like everybody else's. Is big girl stuff. So I can't just be auntie from around the corner. I need to have titles. So this is actually a picture from my most recent gathering that I was so fearful of. Ladybug's Farm is a 1.3 acre urban farm in Youngstown, Ohio. I'm considered a specialty crop grower, as in I do grow fresh produce, but often not for market, for myself. But the thing I do a lot of are native plant prairie species and medicinal plants. So I'm really a medicine woman. I just stay specialty crop on the applications for the grants. They don't have medicine woman in the drop-down box yet, but it's coming. Yeah. It's coming. And regenerative agriculture is yes to all of that. Why? Regenerative agriculture is because that's where I come from. My grandmother gardened, her grandfather gardened, and therefore we come from a people who also gave back as much as we took. Just enough, right? And they didn't say regenerative agriculture, they didn't say zero waste, and they didn't say composting. They said you take enough, you give back and you take what you can and you share with your neighbors. It was always enough. In spite of all of the cycles of setbacks and takeovers and presidents and you name it, pandemics, every so often in these wave cycles, the same stuff happened. But it's the tools that you have to get through them that matters. And when you get to be a ripe, beautiful 50 like me, then you've noticed, I've been here before. And the fear that they try to share, it's not even real. The most money is made during recessions from everybody but you. You notice that? Everybody's like, cut spending, what are you doing? How dare you? Don't buy those shoes. Don't buy a house. But when you look back historically, there was some people still climbing when all of the things hit the fan. So maybe shift your perspective. right? Because potentially you could be a multi-dimensional being, and on all the levels you're doing things. So what part of those levels are you doing? Are you doing the fear? Are you bossing up, right? You coming to California to go stay with Annie in Ashbury Heights, right? Having sushi and namasteing with all of you. Or I could be at home in urban agriculture blight and all the poverty and the hunger, and we got to feed the children because they don't have nothing. Where are you? I'm not saying that doesn't exist, but how long do you stay there? You stay there just enough to do what you can, but get your butt back over to the joy. And don't you let other people stop you from how you get that joy. There's a thin line. I had a conversation with a dear sister this weekend around Kundalini sexual experiences, right? So shout out to the sex workers. They keeping this thing going. Without them, where would we be? One time for OnlyFans. It's better her inbox than mine's. Right? But these are things we judge. Right? And then from a bigger perspective, when you share, people don't care. But when you get in these one-on-ones, when you're really making a difference, right? This is when your Wi-Fi is on. I'm calling it Wi-Fi, as we're human computers. And you're talking with your friend, and she slips in there after she's lamented why she's having a challenging experience with her partner. And it's blaming it on, their social media lifestyle. That ain't got nothing to do with her. But somehow she's holding it as if it's hers. So what do? You're like, yeah, that social media is evil. It done stole our children. It's not going anywhere. Or do you say, girl, let's go get some sushi. Let's talk about this. Because when you really consider what's really happening, is that you're leveling up and they're needing to be where they are. I don't applaud or clap when you're not where you need to be, and I love you. You hear that? I'm not your friend and I'm not your sister if within me I know that's some silliness, but I don't lean in to tell the truth or bring it to light, or even you don't have to know it all to say, I don't know. The internet's kind of useful. It's kind of giving me some information that I didn't know in a very easily way. And a lot of times they're hating on what you got. You might have just got the new iPhone and they still in their other phone usage people. They're Androids and such. And they're like, how you get a phone? Because you are, yes, I'm doing all the things I love and you too can have it. But not the way to get there definitely is not a path of judgment. That's my point. These things are happening, and they do exist. But how much of that matters to you and what you're supposed to be doing? Native and indigenous plants. Whew. Someone forgot to tell me that my people was actually indigenous to Ohio. No, I have not taken any type of test to determine that. But I will say, like I told you before, the traditions we followed have hiccups. And those hiccups are memories. And in the moving forth of your ancestral work, livelihoods, right? Recessions and things happen and wars. So much trauma, you just didn't even remember. So what if I look like the Mahonings? What if it looked like these salt mines that I stand upon were really kin to my bloodline? They didn't have selfies back then. You don't know what they looked like. They could have looked like you, or they could have looked like me. But one thing I know for sure is someone has been putting us in a position where we have lost connection with the origin story. So I'm going to just tell you, because I feel in all of the cycles, and I'm very much so aligned to Ohio. And I'm often told, get out of Ohio. We even have stickers that say stuck in Ohio. And it's like a thing, like, we stuck in Ohio. I don't think it's funny. I don't feel stuck. This is where I'm from. These are my people. We are from the waterways and some of the richest lands in America. We are the heart, as they call it, the heartland. And I come from a tradition of people who work from the heart. So if you've ever met me, water, heart, compassion is who I am. And when we also listen to the, I'm going to say it, respect, so-called Native Americans, because there were people already here. Well, nobody discovering nobody. Indigenous people have been on places of land everywhere, which is Turtle Island. We're not broke up and all over the place. We won. And we were everywhere. So I know everybody want to be the first and the biggest and the strongest, but that's that box you're trying to check, which will disconnect you from your wholeness. Stop fragmenting yourself. You could not be who you are without your ancient mothers. The first to taste, the first to beat a drum, the first to give you safe passage because she explored. She sacrificed to say, okay, we can. And what she looked like? Probably a big blue, black, green reptilian fire spitter. Whatever your mind can think of, right? She looked like him and her and they and us and all and nothing at the same time. Don't you put no limitations to who you've showed up at this stage in the circle of life, because there's no real such thing as death. You just decided to come back looking like this. Ancestral land stewardship, meaning, again, I feel indigenous to Ohio. When I first started growing, I was trying to grow rows and rows of food because I was really trying to respond to this idea of what poverty in the area was, or blight, or if I hear this word again, I'm going to lose my mind, food desert. The only thing about my community that's food desert is the broken food system that's deserting it. There's food in the actual desert, right? That don't make no sense. As I traveled through Youngstown, because of the work that I do and the need that I was really trying to get out, which was really honestly to save my life. And in doing this, saving my life, I discovered there were other people who were doing things like eating from gas stations, eating apples that wasn't local and wasn't in season. I thought that was strange. But I was born and raised in Youngstown, and I also grew up in parts of Central Florida. So coming back home, I was able to compare what my grandma then was doing as opposed to what others were doing in Central Florida. But that wasn't happening in most areas. There was always a fresh produce stand. Some were very much so like here. Everywhere had lots of spring mix choices, and there was no scarcity in certain neighborhoods. And I'm not gonna say all through Florida, but I'm saying I was not equipped to thinking like, well, I just gotta eat what you have. I just went somewhere else. But for whatever reason, as someone had asked a question about Youngstown and its population, I can't remember again. But what I do know is Youngstown is a special place where they are children of steel mills and warehouse workers. And they love themselves and they love the land and the community. And that's why they just ate at gas stations or whatever was available. Because Youngstown Strong meant you don't go outside of yourself seeking for something you already have. That's what that meant. I come from people who are resilient. Say, take care of your own first. And that's just where they've been. So this is so perfect because your traditions should be challenged. They absolutely should, to bring into the present. I'm not saying talk bad. That's why we have to be careful and respectful to our elders, because you don't know what they've gone through. And you don't know the changes that they have made for you to breathe and be here. I ain't even got to the third slide. Look at that. Planet U, and it is described or is stated like planet. Planet U is absolutely born out of the fact that I've had funders support me probably for the last 6-7 years off of I just do want to serve the community in the area of food and food access. And each year I have an opportunity to work with a different organization. But each year, that organization decided, I'm not doing this because this is either too much or this doesn't align with my program. If you're an eater, I don't know what that means, but okay. So every year I'm losing partnerships. So I'm like, I identify as Cancer. I'm sensitive. Like maybe I was mean. Was I rude, disrespectful? It was none of those things. This is serious work. Food is serious. And when you are consistently saying we're not doing this for your own personal gain, but for the whole elevation of the community, that's when people drop off. That's when that thing get real, especially if you keep repeating it every table. I don't want to be employed by poverty. That is just not the vibration I'm into. And I see how this works. So I felt like if we get into the game, we can shift the narrative. This is a wonderful collaboration where OFA, Ohio Ecological Food and Farm Association, along with Rural Action, reached out to me to represent Ohio as a Black farmer, to go to Congress and tell the story about climate action and what farmers were experiencing. I was like, me? Well, lo and behold, Mahoney is also Appalachia now. So I am considered an Appalachian Ohio grower. So my Central Ohio neighbors who know me for the work that I'm doing asked for me to go to Congress to share our climate action policy plans. And I've always been afraid of policy. I'm deeply passionate about some things, but I couldn't quite understand and get it. So they were like, if we can just get Sophia there to tell the story, you don't have to understand policy, just tell the story. When I was asked to attend, I was excited, said yes, went for a hike. 4 steps into the hike, I couldn't breathe. So I couldn't shake that. I've always been a plus size girl, and hiking has never been a problem, or swimming or running or farming or whatever. And that I was concerned, and I did not want to go to a doctor that was in a hospital because, in my opinion, they were giving something away as opposed to me getting rid of something. So I just, researched and worked the medicine that I know from my land, more so outside experiences, slowing down, get my schedule aligned, and I just kept researching, and I ran into an amazing article about a swimmer who discovered they had long-standing COVID. I had never, to my knowledge, had it. I felt like I was one of the people who just didn't get it, and I may have. But I'm perimenopausal, so I could have had it a lot of times. Perimenopausal, your body go through these strange hormone shifts where you do feel like you got fibromyalgia or something's not right or not. But that's just your body having a psychedelic moment. And it's really saying, stop suppressing the truth. Get out of my life, you crazy person. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I say that? You have to speak your power, and that's what it was. When you stop suppressing it, you kind of are freed, and your hormones are appropriate for your age. So when I discovered that, I had to tell these nice folk, especially in light of the past conversation of I can't breathe. This Black woman got to tell all these white farmers that we in a carpool going to do the most courageous thing in the world. I can't breathe and I need your help. And my daughter told me on the phone, and it was such a blessing because my daughter is so desperately wants to show up as a woman in my life, to not treat her as a child. She's 21 and she wants to get recognized. And she said, Mom, you need to learn to be vulnerable enough to ask for help from others. Whew. I don't want to tell them that. I did not. And the whole ride in, I just wanted to keep to myself and wear my hoodie. And the people in the van was obviously feeling like, that's not her personality. That's not who she is. But I didn't want to be like, I'm sick, okay? And I can't breathe. That's dramatic of it. But when I finally had a chance at breakfast to say, because someone asked the question, as you have all asked me all day today, is there something that I can help you with, sister? Are your needs being met? Like it had been asked over and over. And finally I was like, these people know something's going on. Maybe share. And I shared. And the overwhelming support of, we are here to support you to get to where this message can be carried. So whatever you need, if it is to hold your hand, call an Uber, we're there. So we mapped out the whole trip because I was keynote to the rally. And then I was asked to interview with Farm Aid. And then we had to decide who's going to actually talk to the Congress and the congressman and the senator. We couldn't all go into the room. And if you've ever had that experience before, like after you email them and they tell you the date you can come, they'll tell you like only one person can come, like last minute. And so you get together with your group and you go, okay, we have to regroup because we still have to carry the message. So I was just grateful to be there. And they all decided that they wanted me to be the person to share their message. And I thought, I don't know your business. And that's not true. I know them, their children. I knew the challenges that their farms were having as it related to climate. And so if anybody who could tell the story better, it was me. And I kept thinking, you need to tell these people you can't breathe. And they were like, it's okay. We'll get you there so your breath will be just fine. So this picture is a milestone for Appalachian farmers, for Black farmers, for educators, plant medicine people, because in this whole farm bill, there are a lot of things that are being asked, but you don't hear language like wellness, plant medicine. You just hear farm, like horse farms or produce farms or food lots, but they don't talk about it specifically in code the way we know it. So I was able to kind of share that message to say, when you're in Ohio, don't forget to look at the people who are running farmers markets, people who are talking about wellness. These are the people who are supporting and healing the people who are in the communities. They're not using certain language, but this is the language we hope that you look out for. This right here is another title. I'm the Mahoney Food Access Director for the City of Youngstown, working through Healthy Community Partnership, which is a partnership of 20 plus more organizations that are committed to well-being and healthiness. And so Carlos, this gentleman here, is one of the first people to say we don't have grocery stores in my neighborhood. And so he wanted to create his father's dream by creating a grocery store. So this is Jean's Fresh Market. And when I went to make sure that the vendor got him the produce he needed for his brand new grab and go section, he's got his two youngest nieces with him. And when I came in, she looked up at him and she said, I want to help. So I stood back because I wanted to take photos. And so he's like, take your time. And she's like, the other one's like, I want to help too. So I'm taking these pictures. And after they loaded it up, she looked at him and she said, when I grow up, I want to do what you're doing. Oh, I said, if I never did this job again, that was like, and she was so serious. And as adults, we never see where we are from their perspective. In her mind, she was like, all this produce. And she was just asking, who is it for? Can everybody eat it? We got to make sure the grapes is clean so when they come. She was so excited. And this is the future, right? But if we're looking at the future, this young baby here, zip code determines her health, her life, and if she'll even make it to 21. Her uterus, her teeth. Like, for her saying that was a way that she took charge, but it was by the example of her uncle. Like, that was everything to me. So kind of falling into the talk, as I was stating before, which is drawing on traditional practice. This is what I'm really suggesting, because we all come from different practices where we do a little bit of everything. I think for the most part, we all spiritually do something in our everyday life and practice and work. It's just not pointed out as religious. That's probably why I'm stuck on like Medici and Knights of the Round Table. And there was a time where every spiraling movement was in the benefit of your prosperity, the color you wore, how you showed up as the thing. Everybody had spaces where whether you were the alchemist or the healer or the teacher, where your people looked at you and you were like, oh, this is the teacher. It was just a known thing, right? So when I'm saying lean into your own indigenous bloodline practices, right now, if you don't already know, it don't need to be a million things, just one thing. And if you've ever sat at my table to get a reading or healing, if you said, I don't know, then I'm going to encourage you to look at yourself and ask just your avatar, your skin suit, who do you look like? Was it mom, dad, both? Start there. And if the first thing you get there to think is the negation of the, like, yep, there we go. Because when you lean into that energy, it's not bad or good. It's just what's taking up the most weight. Did you understand that? It's not bad or good. It's the thing you're offering the strongest vibration to, because the universe doesn't respond to up, down, left, right. It just responds. So if you are more mad than you're happy, then I know what your life looks like. If you judging all the time, as opposed to the practice of getting your own joy, then that's what it is. Even if you do it with a lightheartedness, right? The energy of where you are. And so I'm saying, when you lean into your own indigenous practices, there's so much water there. And as you all know, there is no enemy to water. None. Ain't no argument. Because she coming through. You don't know when, and you will crack. And she'll seep and love on you and still bring you medicine. I'm telling you. Shift the narrative from checking a box into a spiraling movement of your own knowledge and lived experiences. And that makes me think of Buffy St. Marie's, we are climbing together, onward, inward, creature to creation. We are spiraling together, onward, inward, creature to creation. Holy mystery, Mother Earth, childbirth, it's a celebration. Right? We are spiraling. And when you stop moving is when you've given up. Keep moving. It's okay that you don't know it all right now. But as long as that's what your request is, and your quest is, the universe is going to provide it. Just get on the path. Who am I? And stay there. And watch all of the things that's going to rush to you. They've been waiting to tell you who they are. But you're so busy trying to be like them. Just be proud of what you look like. Your big nose, your big lips, your big feet, your big body, your slender torso. Be proud of your people. Every body type has leadership and what's necessary and useful. All of the mothers that we've painted and sculpted have shown us this. And we were proud people for whatever we looked like. Down to Nefertiti's 17 feet tall, awkward, big old head. She was sexy, wasn't she? She was like, and it's like, there go Nefertiti, hey. Boy, look at those skinny legs. She was fine, right? Your people were fine, and they still are. And the only difference between then and now is, again, the dimensions. Because being present is now. They were present. Be present to align and get those energies that are for you. Share your cultural context through the lens of mind, body, and spiritual wholeness. Don't leave nothing out of this. And we do this. I want to do better at work. I want to get there on time. I want to stay tasked and focused. Sometimes we start in the areas that we don't need to. Maybe start in the area of making your bed. Just make your bed. But you stop making your bed because it got loud. It's like, I can't do that no more. You don't want to do the dishes now because it's too loud. Especially when that's that thing you need to do to elevate you to the next level. I'm a procrastinator. I am. It's so loud in the area of clutter for me right now. Right? But it's an interesting loud. It's not punishing me. It's giving me a better path. But if I keep practicing 80% of my day and working someone else's will, I'm never going to have the strength and the courage to push my own stuff. That's how that works. You are a God and an energy producer. You know they excited you on their team. Be on your own with your ancestors. You take one step and all the grandmothers, that's all you need. Take one step each time. So my mother, my mama, Tamra, Buggs, when I'm in those stuck moments or I can't really think of next steps in life, I call my mom and I already know what she's gonna say. But it's just the support that I need from my mom in spite of where she's at. So I said, Ma, I gotta do this presentation. Give me a topic. She was like, that's your life. I ain't got nothing to do with it. I did the hard part. My mama. So she was like, tell the people about the food and all the people you saving. No more hungry people, no more hungry babies. I'm so glad my mother think I'm healing the whole planet, Ain't got no more. So this is what she gave me. You've got to grow it to know it. Because you minds. And I know your capacity. I grow humans, y'all. I grow humans. Both for real and educational. My daughter, Passion Yael Hilton, was due on my birthday, August 7th. And she decided to appear on my favorite number, August 13th. She showed me my magical capacity as a person that makes humans, right? And then also my medicine are for farmers. I've got some amazing people out there farming the world by meeting me, coming to my farm and getting spanked and learning what them rocks and urban ag got for you, right? And how you need to also bring your community with you. I've been told I didn't come here to hear about my mama. I came here to grow food, crying. Yes, you did. You came here to talk about your mama. And everybody else to come with it. Just grab a spade shovel and we're gonna work through it. But you've got to grow it to know it. And I know that through plants, for sure. Hoodoo as a religious botanical practice. This is Hoodoo Heritage Month. We are slowly reclaiming, reiterating, and sharing our practice. This is not a word that my grandmother had a safe passage to say. Helen Louise Wigfall Buggs, which is my strongest bloodline relative, the one who has absolutely transferred the knowledge and magical practices of this thing I'm calling hoodoo. She did not have the freedom to say, I'm a hoodooist. But when I look at all the signs she left, the jingling was real. You know, from incense burning to candles to coffee and cups and saucers. The details. I graduated from Bethune-Cookman College, which is a historically Black institution. And so a lot of those traditional Southern Black practices were in my matriculation in college. So Mayor McLeod Bethune, if you're familiar with her work, and one of the first Black institutions that was able to educate Black people to go and teach the world during a time where people of color could not just go to any institution. And she did it with her pies and her choir. That was magic. Pure magic. And so the plant medicine magic of it is just the piece of me that loves nature. I got kicked off of all the teams because I picked flowers, literally. Cheerleading team, if it was outside, I'm gonna catch this lap, but I need to go look at this dandelion real quick. And my mother was, you stop picking those flowers, I need childcare. And we laughed, one of my cousins, God rest her soul, my cousin Harriet, she was like, I don't know what's going on, but you tend to listen. Stop picking flowers. And so as I grew up and became a farmer, like we laugh about it now. It's like, don't tell people that I was blocking your blessings. They didn't know. They probably should have put me in a 4-H program. But I know why they didn't. You send a young Black girl in the 70s in the woods, she might not come back. So I can't be upset that they didn't put me in that 4-H program, even though I'd have took up archery. Now, they'd have been like, I don't know what she's doing out here. You're supposed to focus on food, not weaponry. And so this particular practice is kind of varied. It is definitely rooted in Black and Indigenous ancestors of Turtle Island, known and unknown. Turtle Island is what we call the planet for the most part, Pangea, where in my practice, even when we don't like them, they're a part of your reality. That's that whole bless your heart. You gotta be careful when someone say that, right? Ooh, there's a lining of the hymn is what they call it. And a woman who, like myself, who sings spirituals, because my background is also performance, I was like, what is this I'm singing over and over? Listen, I've had, or just bless your heart, or any of the spirituals that say what you didn't think they was saying. But when you really learn the words of it, man, music and sound is also part of that. The ritual usage of sound, plants, stones, cosmology. You cannot forget the stars in this. Your ancestors charted the stars, not the seasons. I'm going to say it again. Your ancestors charted the stars in astrology, not the seasons. So if any wisdom I want to lean in to share today with that magical number 13, reassess the fact that there were 12 constellations because they're 13. Okay? And NASA did not lie to you when they revealed that, oh yeah, by the way, we have been following this system. Ophiuchus is added, and it has always been one of the academic wording in astrology and astronomy. They just didn't want you to know it or say it. So I'm not making it up. It has been there. So I would love for you to research that. What would you be if there was a 13th planet, a 13th house, a 13th constellation that you potentially could be backed up into, which is the Dark Mother? Look at that. They stole the real protection of who you are. The most delicious part of, we're so judgmental, aren't we? On sacred sexual practice, primordial medicine. Potentially we might be looking into the waters and not a sky. Why? Because there are beings there that we've yet to discover. And guess whose ancestors they are? All of y'all. All of us. We're from these people, these beings, these sentients who are always giving you messages that you find my table and say, I had a dream about this water, or I was on this ship, or I didn't feel like I was in my body. They're trying to connect to you. Allow them to. But if you keep practicing other people's traditions, you won't hear them. Be careful with all the power lines and the chemicals and the others and the boxes. Get outside, y'all. That grounding ain't some old hippity-doo stuff. Get outside into the first form of technology, which is nature. Which, back to the whole idea of me as witch, practicing hoodoo and honoring all the traditions. That's what I love about hoodoo. I know my people when I see them. I could be in a room with somebody who we don't look nothing alike, but we are absolutely kin in our unlikeliness. And I love that. The freaks, the weirdos, the others, that's y'all. That's us. And look at us gathering, right? And encouraging other people to gather, to do more of these things. And just, I want you all to know, you're big thinkers like me, it's not going to be 1 million at your event, baby. It's going to be 3. It's okay that it's 3. Because the 3 is backed by billions. When they walk into the room, unpack them with a how are you? And you're going to feel the weight and vibration. That's just the physical presence. It's not the unseen and the unknown. And you've seen that in my presence already. You better remember to those who you can't see, but you can feel exist. Don't shun them out of the room. Sometimes those are the ones the loudest. Well, we got psychedelics. These are the things I grow. This is my apple tree. One of the ones that wasn't dug up and stolen from my growing space. That happens when you're in an urban farm, when you had limited funds, or doing what I admitted I was doing was playing small. Here I'm offering small business coaching, beginner farmer rancher programming. I'm doing this for everybody but myself. And it's just so heavy when the people that I'm trying to love is hurting me. So I had to put my big girl panties on and do the things that I was recommending to for myself. So I'm in this apple tree that makes mala apples. That very apple tree this year made an apple that looked terrible, but tasted like a cross of a Gala and a Granny Smith. When the folk had come to visit my farm, we had an apple peeler to just show them how you peel an apple. Because the skin looked all weird because it was organic, it's not sprayed. When they ate the apple, we ate another apple and another apple. We made apple pies with it. We made apple cider. And we made applesauce. That was breathtaking. Before I could even dip to get a scoop, it was gone. From my apple tree, that tree. Then there are the catalpa flowers, the ones that make so much mess in the street, and all the city people are like, I can't stand it when they're dropping all their stuff. Catalpa is another wisdom tree, ancestor mother tree. The cigar tree, they call it that sometimes too. But this is the one I love it the most. Big, bouncy, buoyant flowers that make what I think is sort of like a witch hazel, astringent kind of a skincare vibe. Put that in some distilled water in your refrigerator. The flower blooms for about 2 weeks. Strain it off, and medicine you've got. Put in your bath water. You want to put in your hair. You feel the vibration. It really does feel like witch hazel. So now that you know that there's something else that could feel like witch hazel, you don't have to enslave witch hazel to do it all the work. That's our sustainability model. If I can keep you doing the same thing for my comfort forever, that's sustaining. Change your narrative with that. That's another form of slavery. Forcing a living being to keep doing the same thing it's doing for your green happiness. That's the green splaining of the things that should make sense. Again, your spiritual practice says you give and you take. Right? So this is not a situation where you're practicing something that everything is light and love. It gets dark up in there. How many people know about the dark night of the soul? Come on through. Because if hell wasn't that furious, you wouldn't be where you are. So you better tip the goddess that got your butt through the fires. Especially when you're in experience of doing something you don't want to do. Look back and be like, thank you, Great Tara. Thank you, Fire Mother. Thank you for all of, yeah. Them journeys is powerful. You better not forget it. And of course, the glorious Ohio pawpaw. Can you see that pawpaw from here? So my pawpaw trees didn't do as much this year because when they flowered, we had a crazy frost. So I used the internet to find other pawpaw growers. And I was just like, man, why my trees didn't produce? But I realized why I didn't. Because it needed to cross-pollinate with a different variety. And it forced the farmer and me to reach out to other growers. And we just been chit-chatting about it. And back in, Kansas State does a big study on the Northeast pawpaw. And pawpaw grows from Mississippi to Southern Ontario. Plants will tell you the cultural walk of your people. This is how I know I'm where I'm from, right? Because we drop the seeds as we go along the way. But for whatever reason, we've probably lost a lot of the animals that carried the seed. So that's why you don't know about pawpaw, right? Pawpaw, it's been kind of noted in some of our children's books, the Jungle Book. Because many, I remember. They thought it was imaginary fruit swinging through the pawpaw patches. Right? This is me holding a toxie. Oh, the wall looks funny in my eye, don't it? That's witchcraft, ain't it? That's my evil eye, don't you look at me. Joking. I'm holding a topsy-turvy doll. I collect dolls, and I make dolls. And I have dolls on my bed, and I've always played with dolls, but one thing I learned growing up, I was a great student. Some things you didn't have to say. You don't tell people you play with dolls as an adult. So I just never did until I met a sister who, when I went to visit her, she had a doll sitting by her, and I was like, is that your doll? And she's like, yeah, but I don't tell nobody, but I thought you were my sister. I was like, I got a doll. So a white sister friend of mine gave me this doll because it was a doll that was passed through her family bloodline. And she wanted to share it with me because that was the first time she had been in space with someone who's very comfortable with talking about race. On the opposite side of that doll is a white doll. So her skirt covers the black face, right? And so, I know, right, the look on your face like, what was people doing? Yeah. So sometimes that was, signs and symbols of telling you what's happening. Like a stoop at the door, like this is what's going on. Or sometimes that meant I'm mad at you. White is good and black is bad, right? So these dolls weren't always necessarily created from goodness, but they were always creating some type of a tradition. That's my grandma from my daddy. That is Dorothy Hopkins, who comes by way of Union Point. And we're sitting on the porch. And I thought it was going to be a random, just talk to Grandma there. And she said, the wrens are nosy. And they're always listening to our conversations. Oh, it's like a blessing because I thought what I heard was my own. My grandmother, my dad's side, never shared with me that she heard source. You have to hear source if you say that the birds is being nosy. Right? And this is that age where you can't resist it. The hormones won't let you lie no more. And that grandmother was different than Helen. We outside, Grandma. But when she said that the little brown birds were being nosy, there was so much power in that. This is so much love for me. I wanted to share that with you. Doing it better for legacy, ease, and joy. Right? Because you got to give this to somebody. You do not have to physically birth any baby to be a mama. You don't have to be a woman to be a mama. You can be a man and be a mama. We've seen animals and sentient beings just latch on to the things you nourish. That's mama. We come from her, and we need to channel her as often as possible. Some people need a hug. Some people need you to put all your boundaries aside and just say, come on, come on. We all have that kind of openness. I'm standing in Youngstown Botanical Gardens, which is in Youngstown. It's an older gentleman and his son have repurposed some lots. I try not to say vacant because there's life there. Be careful with the way you say things. And they decided to recreate a growing space. And so here, Amaranth was standing as tall as I was. And as I was coming down, I was like, oh, you think you diva like I am? This plant from root to seed is useful and medicinal. In some cultures, they call it kalaloo, the leaves. You can make bread with these seeds. You will never go hungry with Mama Amaranth. And she was the tallest, most colorful being in the garden. Why would I not want to take a picture with her? So doing it better for legacy, ease, and joy, meaning I'm leaning into the traditions that was given to me, leaning into the traditions, which are new ones that I've created language, practicing them, and sharing them with everybody. You are all my children. Even the walls, the amulets you have on, they're listening to me. If you want to recapture this speech and you lose contact with me, whatever your pendant, jewelry, medicine, whatever you got is in the vibration. I want to thank you all for your time. And I must say, this has been the most present presentation that I've had because you allowed me to do it. I wasn't rushed, wasn't forced. I didn't have to try. You all just allowed me, and I appreciate you, your helping spirit guides, ancestors, and I trust and pray that before we leave this place, I get a chance to touch you and create Ashe, which is a yes, yes. We don't stop here. It's a continuum. These are the ways that you can contact me. ladybugsfarm@gmail.com, owning food access at Gmail, Ladybugs Farm Facebook, and Mama Sophia's Wisdom, both Facebook and Instagram. Green blessings to you. And if you have any, feel free if you have any questions. Please. I'm on the roll, I'm transparent. Yes, Mother.
I want to know what you do with the root of amaranth.
Tincture it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's for...
I like amaranth to ground me, for sure. And I think amaranth is also so old and ancient that I particularly like that kind of tincture for, you've seen what she looked like, right?
I have the
So I will say this too about plants. When you tincture or make medicine of the plant, you make medicine of its life experience. So you always get the highest vibration of it. You harvest it normally in the mornings when it's at its peak. So everything about the plant, and it's not ideal. You might not be perfect, because sometimes you got to run out at night and snatch something. But if you got the practice, the right practice, and you're following moon phases like I do, or celestial moments, or full moon, that's when it's at its peak, right? You harvest it and you tincture it. And typically it's energetics is really what you're looking for, not necessarily just this is good for a rash, this is good for the strength. That medicine is going to be powerful. When you can't stand, you say, I want to stand tall like Amaranth. I'm just as old and ancient as she is, and I'm nourishing everything that comes into my contact. So don't just take the plant for just it. Some people like the root, though. Some people like the seeds, and some people like the leaves, which makes it readily. And if you eat the leaves, it should be fresh. They taste sort of like spinach. So they can be eaten raw or you can steam them. Good question. Next. Yes, ma'am.
What is mahogany?
So Mahoning is, I'm from Mahoning, where I'm at in Ohio, which is Youngstown. The county is Mahoning. But that name is typically, like most of our names, is derived from the people who were indigenous there, which are the Mahonings, which were Native Americans who lived there, primarily people who farmed salt licks, which is an underground salt mine that we often stand on if you're in Youngstown. So we do have like sinkholes sometimes. It's because they tried to cover up the mines. And yes, they were very prosperous in this salt and plenty of fresh springs. I've lived there, I say my whole life, but I've gone back and forth. But now someone who's in the woods, I see all the old springs that were boarded up. There's a street called Mineral Springs up the street from me. Keep listening to the surname. You ready? This is how I know I'm water if I didn't know I was water. The name of my street is Falls Avenue. My grandmother's favorite color was blue. I'm not just down the street around the corner. I'm literally right there where Lake Glacier is. So the valley is primarily the land space of the Mahoning Native Americans. So that's where the name Mahoning comes from. So typically if someone, even within Youngstown, say, where are you from? I'm from the south side of Mahoning, by the waterways, by the Mahoning River, down at the bottom. You say down at the bottom and they know what you're talking about. Yes.
How do you grow this communication you have with the source?
Mm-hmm. So you said, how am I growing the specialty crops with?
No, the communication that you're having with the, when you mentioned your grandma.
The communication of that. So I'll say to you probably maybe 3 years ago, I finally came up with real wording of that, and it's called the voice. Doom said it perfectly. Since I was a child or a vibration, it was a language, but it was a sound, but it was a feeling, but a knowing, right? And I've always been old. My grandmother named me Sophia, which means wisdom. This is real. Her favorite actress was Sophia Loren. So she wanted someone who was entertaining. My background is performance. But the wisdom that she gave me, I think she was saying that she heard me before I got here because I disrupted a lot of things in our family. My mother gave birth when I was 14, all right? And that was a challenge because it is already open and decided. That's what happened when they're being honest. My grandmother was asking if someone could care for me because they couldn't afford to have a baby in the house. But somehow it worked out. My grandma still kept me. So this tough relationship she and I've had is based off of a vibration, which I call the voice. It's a knowing that I just know. And it's sometimes a feeling, sometimes, but it always sounds like me. When I go under the water in the tub, she just awakens and talks. I don't think I'm necessarily channeling something. I think I just turn myself on and it happens. But sometimes she get a lot. And it's nice to, have a couple plants. Yes.
How many generations of your family have been on the land that you farm?
I'm going to say I'm the fourth. So when I say I'm from the bottom of Mahoning River, it really just connects the street. There was a place in Youngstown called the Monkey's Nest. And this is where not just blacks, but immigrants lived, that they called the Monkey's Nest, which is a horrible name when we look back at it. But these people were proud to be a part of the Monkey's Nest. So where I'm from the bottom, is just a little bit from the Monkey's Nest. When my grandmother also harvested yarrow for her family, where she also made medicine. And my grandmother did not die of disease. She died of a broken heart. And that's my great grandma. It was her husband, my grandfather, who was the grower. And where they were at, from the poorest lands in Youngstown, he had to grow up a hill. So it wasn't like a flat backyard. The backyard kind of did this. So he had to grow at an angle. And what we know about indigenous people is, can you still hear me? Okay. What we know about indigenous people is they grew in small plots in a biodiversified way, from a very specialty crop kind of way. Not rows and rows and rows of monocropping. That is not from any of our traditions. You grow more food when you stuff them together in these smaller plots because they're community. The red clover is like, get over dandelion, you always trying to show yourself. Yeah. So fourth, Grandpa, who also was the person that bought the home that I inherited from my grandma, he bought a duplex for his 2 daughters who were unmarried with children, which is my Aunt Jean and my Grandma Helen, and that's the house I inherited. So I have a double house. I live on one side, and the other side is used for my small business, and I hope that one day that you'll come stay with me in my bed and breakfast and have my experience of urban agriculture. I want my community to experience you like you've allowed me to experience them, and it's a slow process, but I'm gonna get there. I'm definitely gonna get there. So I feel like, yeah, 4th generation. Yeah. Any more questions? Thank you for your time and your presence.